Hello, hello, and welcome to our show, Conversations with Lady T, where we bring guests on our show to talk about issues and topics that matter. Get your china teacup and enjoy the show. Hello, hello, and welcome to our show, Conversations with Lady T, where we bring guests on our show to talk about issues and topics that matter. And today for my entrepreneur segment, I have this handsome young man here, Rashad Malik Davis, who is an author and illustrator.
Yes.
He has his first children's picture book called Carefree Like Me. So welcome to the show. I love to highlight entrepreneurs since I'm an entrepreneur. And
Right.
one day I was walking with my girlfriend and we ran into Dan and he told us about you. And I was like, okay, I have to have you on the show. So I'm very, very excited. So before we start, I want to start with tea time.
Awesome.
So today's featured tea that we're having is an orange spice so nice black tea.
I've never had that. It sounds delicious.
Okay, yes. Tea is just wonderful. It starts great conversations. It warms your heart. It opens your mind to new possibilities.
Exactly.
So
I've been drinking tea with my best friend Nina for like almost 18 years now.
Wow.
So
so you're a true tea drinker.
We are.
Awesome.
We are.
Wonderful. Well, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
So if you can just tell us your journey, what made you start writing books?
Sure. So as far as the beginning goes, I come from a very artistic family. So my grandfather, he was an incredible singer, and it passed down to, into his children and his grandchildren. So we're either singers or visually artistic.
Okay, nice.
And my great-grandfather, he was actually a basket weaver that was known.
Oh, wow.
Right. It was.
Oh, my gosh.
It's incredible. So it's just way back.
Oh, my
it's way
gosh.
back. But he was an incredible basket weaver in South Carolina.
Wow.
And was known throughout, his county for it.
Right.
So, I have cousins who perform and, they perform with nationally known singers like Miguel and Jennifer
nice.
Hudson.
Okay.
So it's just surrounded by it. So I really
Talent.
have no choice.
Nice. Yeah, so you can't fall short of that.
Right. I'm like, okay, well, I guess I have to step it up.
Yes, right, for sure. Well, this is awesome.
Thank you.
Nice.
But as far as my journey with this particular book goes and just illustrating in books in general, it really started around my senior year of college where I was about to graduate.
Right.
I studied anthropology and Chinese,
nice.
completely,
Wow.
random.
Yes.
My mother's still to this day like, so
Right, what made you write? What were you thinking?
Right. But it worked out. But my senior year, I was, I said to the universe, I said, I don't know what to do. Can you help me out? And of course, like clockwork, my friend came up to me. She said, hey, we're hosting an Africana Center gallery, and we want to make you kind of the first person to host the artwork.
Wow,
okay.
Nice.
And what came of that was that one of my professors at the time, Monica Ndunu, she reached out. She said, I love your work. I love what you do. Can you please illustrate my book cover? And as someone who wasn't officially trained as an illustrator or an artist, it was just kind of like,
just the creativity started flowing.
Exactly. And so I said, okay, sure, let me do it. Nice. And it was a book that she published through Rutgers University Press.
Oh, nice.
And they loved my work, and it became the book cover.
Wow.
Right. And so I said, okay, maybe I can kind of finagle this into a career.
Just like that. Wow.
Right. No,
wow.
seriously, I'm really a firm believer in if you have a passion and you have a dream for something, just kind of do it until you kind of manifest that as reality for yourself.
Right.
And so eventually I put on my Facebook, on my LinkedIn, I said, freelance illustrator. Sure. And I was contacted by an author, an upcoming author. Her name is Amakari Kariyasin. And she said, I love your work. Would you mind illustrating my children's book? And I said, okay.
Wow. That's awesome.
Seriously. And, it just kind of took off from there. And I had a bit of a hiatus because I wasn't entirely sure what I wanted to do officially.
Right.
I wasn't sure if I wanted to go into video games or film or animation or what have you. But I eventually came right back to children's books. And this was kind of my first flagship attempt and, launch into writing and illustrating a project.
Wow. So this is your first book that you wrote as well?
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
That's amazing.
Thank you.
And so how many books have you illustrated on for other people, approximately?
Sure. So as far as completely illustrated, I would say one.
Okay.
That was Amakari's book, and that's called Sune's Gift. But as far as illustrations here and there or book covers, I've done two. the first was the book by Monica Ndunu, and the name of the book is The History of African American Film.
Oh, nice.
And so she wanted to kind of tap me into that. I said, okay, sure. And then the next one was an autobiography of poems and prose by my friend Tobias Wilson,
Okay.
and he had me do the cover. And the book name for that was Godless Circumcisions, which was very intense and a complete departure from children's literature.
Yes.
But it was very interesting nonetheless. And then I've had a few kind of projects working here and there for different people. So
Nice.
I've been all over the place.
Right, wonderful. And so all types of topics and industries, I'm sure.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, definitely,
Wow.
definitely.
So what do you prefer doing? Do you prefer doing illustrating? Do you prefer writing, or a little bit of both?
You know, I think I love them both. Although, you know, I'm definitely having more of an affair with illustration. That's my first real love.
Because it brings things to life.
Exactly.
It brings things to life.
Exactly. I'm a very visual person.
Yes, so am I.
So you understand. So, you know, my storytelling style is very dramatic and very charismatic, and I talk the same way that I draw. So it's very lively, very very out there. And so illustration is definitely my first love, but I love to create worlds. I love to build characters. I love, you know, the process of creating, and that's really what I drive, what I strive for, I should say.
Now, did you go to school to take drawing, or just natural?
You know, I'm currently pursuing a master's at the Savannah College of Art and Design.
Oh, beautiful.
Yep. I have a few classes left, maybe 3 or so, and I'm finishing that up online. But as far as training, I've mostly just kind of trained myself and drawn and done it all the time. So that's kind of my thing.
Wow. Now, who are your mentors? Like, who have you looked up to? You know, when it comes to doing illustrations and things like that.
Sure. So I'm forgetting her name, and it's terrible because she's been so incredibly impactful in my work. But she's an African American queer artist. And it's going to bother me because her name is at the tip of my brain. But
that's okay.
But her work is just so stupendous, and it really delves into the lives of Black women. And she does so through collage, and it's just so beautiful. And I've really been inspired by her. But ultimately, I would say I've been inspired by Japanese artists. And I grew up in the 90s, so we came in at the turn of the anime tsunami.
Yes,
And so we came in with Pokemon and Digimon and all that good stuff.
Oh yeah, I remember all that fun stuff. I mean, I'm much older, but yeah, I love that as well.
It's beautiful. And I realized that art wasn't just something for kids. It was something that could be an incredible medium for adults as well.
Yeah, it is.
There's such storytelling potential. And, you know, one of the first cartoons that really inspired me to go ahead with my own artwork and make it kind of official was a show called Cowboy Bebop, which I love.
Okay.
It's so random.
Now, where was that? Was it at school? Where was that?
No. I mean, it was something that I kind of latched onto at home. It was just a regular kind of TV show that came up from Japan.
Oh, nice.
Yep.
Wow.
And it was about these space bounty hunters, but they had African American influences in the music. It was bebop and jazz, and it was just very present. And so I kind of found myself relating to it in a personal, historical way.
Wow, that's beautiful. I mean, when I grew up, I used to grow up drawing the TV guide.
That's awesome.
Like, I mean, nobody really uses TV guide now, but I used to look at the covers and just sit and just draw.
Right.
And I still have those pictures just locked away. You know, I looked at it once or twice and I showed my friends and like, wow, girl, you should get back into your drawing. And I had submitted for different things, but I just never pursued it.
That's awesome.
But I love to draw. I even draw clothes. My sister went to Fashion Institute and I used to draw and love to draw. But I don't really do it as much now. I'll be honest. About 2 years ago, my girlfriend went to a wine and painting. And that was the first time that I went and I did this painting. And so that one painting is in my daughter's room. And then I went to another one my girlfriend invited me to. And I tried to put my own little twist on it. You know, I never like to do anything like everybody else. So everybody's following the exact how it should be. I'm like, I went home, I put on my African beads. I made her have dreads. You know, so I love what you're saying in terms of being creative and just drawing. It's really it makes me feel relaxed. You know, it's a good form. To just bring out, you know, all your feelings.
Exactly. And, you know, I'm reading this book now, or I finished reading, I should say. And it was from an African shaman from West Africa, and it's incredible, and it just talks about his journey into his spirituality and how he became a shaman and what kind of precipitated that. But one thing that he talked about and that I resonated with so much was that he said for typically for African descended peoples, art is not just art. It's a means of communicating with the divine.
Yes.
And so he said when an artist is in flow, they don't have a word for art. It's just spirit. And
Right.
I was like,
Right.
my mind was blown.
It's true.
And so when I hear you say stuff like, it's very therapeutic, I agree, because you kind of go into this other world.
It does. It brings out so much that's inside of you that you don't even talk about with people.
Exactly.
And so you just put it into your drawing. And I keep saying I have to, but you're inspiring me, because now I feel like, maybe I should, not to do it like a profession, but to really start doing it more, like oil paintings. I keep saying I would love to try oil. I've done charcoal, like back in school, in high school.
Yes.
I used to love the charcoal.
It's so messy.
Yeah, it's messy, but the image that you can create with that, it's fun.
Right.
So I don't know, what else do you dabble in terms of being creative with your illustrations?
Sure. So I love pencil work. I started out with pencil work. This is entirely digital, and I really kind of draw heavily from my own history as a pencil kind of artist.
Yes.
And so that's how I started.
Yes.
My mother, and this is just kind of testament to my mother and to my aunt, because they've been so supportive, and my father as well.
And I was going to ask you that.
Yes, they've been so supportive.
That's great.
They've been incredibly supportive. They used to tease me because I used to carry my sketchbook everywhere. We'd go to dinner and I was like, nope.
Oh, I'm taking that with you. Oh my gosh.
Exactly. They would laugh. I'm like, you're not laughing now.
And it's good that your parents are supportive, because a lot of times art, music, those type of things, you're not going to get the support. They're like, why can't you get like something that's going to produce like a real job, a 9 to 5? These type of things are not, you're really not sure what you can really do with it.
Exactly.
So it's wonderful that they are really, have you back.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. No, it is, and my mother, when I was younger, because she was working such late nights at Merrill Lynch, she used to bring me with her.
Oh, wow.
And I would sit there and she'd be like, okay, Manny, my nickname is Manny. And she would say, Manny, just go sit to the side and just draw. And I was like, okay. So that's how I really got started, was that I just drew and drew and drew. I had a lot of time, so might as well.
Yeah. So just tell me a little bit about this book.
Sure.
Because I was reading that it has to do with some diversity and things like that, which is a wonderful thing and so needed today.
Yes.
So let us, hear more about this book.
Sure. So, this book kind of came about. It kind of started in, was given birth in my brain basically when it was the whirlwind of police brutality and shootings that kind of started.
Right.
And I was at work one day, and I just heard about the death of someone else, and I just had a breakdown.
Wow.
I was like, oh my God, everybody's carrying on as if this is normal. And
Right.
I'm like, I need to get out. And juxtaposed with that was I saw an image of it was Emmett Till with an image of Tamir Rice, and they look so much alike. And for me, that was almost like the ancestors saying, like, we need to make a change. Like, there needs to be change that needs to happen now.
Right, yes.
And so, after I had my little crying session, I was like, okay, I can't be a victim. I need to do something.
Right.
And this book was what birthed from that.
Wow.
And so it deals with diversity and dealing with topics of ethnic and cultural difference, and us being empathetic to that and understanding that there's beauty in everybody.
Right.
But then on top of that, I was pulling from my own spiritual background and understanding that I wanted to deal particularly with the topic of empathy and emotional intelligence.
Yes.
Because everything seems so overwhelming nowadays. It's just everything coming at you. And I realized as a sensitive person like myself, I was having difficulty kind of internalizing that and then dealing with it.
Right.
And so I figured I would reach out to kids like me who didn't know that being sensitive was normal, especially boys.
Especially men, right?
Exactly. I got it. I was told that at home that, there was nothing wrong with me, but then I would go out into the world and they'd be like, man up, you're such a sissy. And I'm like,
yeah, that's hard.
It is.
It's hard growing up.
It is, and so I wanted to kind of speak to that experience, but also speak to sensitive individuals in general. And so I made a book about two friends who travel into the spirit world because they have a balanced friendship. So Amir is a sensitive one,
Right.
and this is based on my friendship
Right, no.
with my friend Nina.
Okay, nice.
So I'm the sensitive one,
Yes.
and then my friend Nina, she's sensitive as well, but she's more logical about how
Right.
she approaches everything. She's like, okay, you have all these feelings,
Right.
but let's work from point A to point
Right,
B,
okay.
and we kind of keep each other balanced that way.
Nice.
And so I put that into the book, and they get pulled into the spirit world where they have to balance out these heroes. And the only way they can get back home is by using their emotional intelligence.
Wow.
And so each hero represents a different chakra or a different spiritual state of being that has to do with your emotions. And they all represent a different emotion, and the kids have to balance them out individually using their emotional intelligence. And that's kind of the gist of the book. But it's done in a fun way.
Wow, no, that is amazing.
Thank you.
I love that.
Thank you.
Especially like you were saying, because I have a son and I have a daughter, and I always worry about my son in terms of being sensitive, because we know we're all human beings.
Right.
But and it's a shame that society has it where, women, it's okay to cry.
Exactly.
And men can't cry. And if they cry, it's like, oh, like you said, oh, you're a sissy, man up. But having this book, and it's funny, now, is this really for kids? I think adults need this book, right? I think we need to sometimes go from the top, because they need to learn again.
Exactly.
They need to understand the importance and the relevance of this. So I don't know, you might have to say adults as well on here as your target market. They may buy it more.
And it's, the response that I've gotten has been so incredible, because it's not only resonated with kids, but adults are like, whoa, maybe I don't need to be afraid, or like my emotions are manageable. And so that's kind of the most rewarding part, is seeing everybody who's just resonating with this.
Right.
And I've had a lot of men approach me, and they say thank you, for doing this, because to see an image of a man being a male-bodied person, being sensitive and being open and empathetic and just, a balanced human being, they're like, thank you. I struggle with this
Look,
sometimes.
I'm getting emotional just hearing you talk about it, because this is really a serious topic.
It is.
It's really a serious topic, and I think that you should use this as a means to open up conversation.
I definitely will.
When you do book tours, have where people are sitting down and having conversations, like round table, with men talking about these issues, because how many men are afraid to talk about that?
A lot.
A lot. and I'll say it, I love to see that a man can cry.
Exactly.
It makes me feel like, wow, he's a human being.
Right.
You know what I mean? And I respect them more when they can do that, because when they try to be all stiff and like, no, everything is okay, we know it's not, and you're hurting inside.
Exactly.
And that doesn't, your life, like you said, it can't be balanced.
Right.
You can't have a good relationship with other people if you can't really, truly express yourself when you're in pain.
Exactly.
And so this is phenomenal. I'm
Thank
just so
you.
glad that I met you.
Thank you, likewise.
Yeah, I love this book.
Thank you so
Love
much.
this book.
I really wanted to tackle the topic of toxic masculinity, and how that has real world implications for how men interact, not just with ourselves, but with women and just people in general.
Of course.
And it also affects women. Patriarchal systems are kind of detrimental when they're just imbalanced like that to everybody.
Right, it is. So. It is. But when they can actually, because what I do with the tea is for people to sit, relax, and just reflect within. So when men can do something like this, to reflect and say, it's okay for me to cry, it's okay for me to show my emotions, even in front of other men.
Exactly.
I think men should probably do some kind of bonding thing where they're sitting and maybe showing the tears.
Exactly.
That will give them more strength.
Exactly.
So this book, I mean, you're really onto something, And again, like I keep saying, I can't stress it anymore. It's beautiful to let the young kids start now, but definitely top down. Men, boys should be sitting together having this conversation. They should be having it with their sons or mentors and talking and letting them know you can cry.
Exactly.
But of course not just crying, but that's just the way to get out your feelings and then to move on. How do I fix this? What's the next step?
Exactly.
And so this is lovely. I am really like blown away
Thank you.
From this. And I'm so glad that I ran into Dan to bring you on the show, because I love this book.
Thank you so much.
I didn't even read it yet, but just the little bit that you already mentioned, and from me reading what Dan sent me, I was like, wow, this is really awesome.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So exactly when did this come out?
So it came out officially in February.
Okay.
So it came out Black History Month, and I was trying to
perfect.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I was trying to push it. Saying this is not a black book, and
right.
I hate the idea of it being a black book,
right.
because then it limits its human potential.
Right.
And so I'd never wanted to market it as just a book for Black people. I was like, this is just a human story that happens to have a Black body as the main character. One of the main characters. But it came out in February, and I've been steadily marketing it and pushing it elsewhere and trying to let people see it. And it's been great. The response that I've gotten, kids have been like, where's chapter 2?
Yeah. So are you going to have like a part 2 and 3 and 4?
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
wonderful.
So each character, and I left my artwork in my bag.
Oh, that's okay.
But each character is representative of a different ancient culture, which in turn represents modern cultures. And each one represents a different emotion. And I figured it'd be a good way to kind of tie in all the characters and everything that I possibly could and wanted to say with this book as possible.
Right.
Sure. So each character is represented by a different chakra, and I got very much into Eastern philosophical thought. And I wanted to have each character represent a different emotion and a different kind of emotional imbalance that the kids would have to help them balance out. So the first one, this first book, Root the Brave, I wanted it to be ironic every title because Root is a gigantic bull who's terrified.
That's beautiful.
Thank you. And so the first book is dealing with ancient Egyptian or African culture. And so I wanted to tap into that. And he's based on the god or mythological creature, the Apis bull. And so the next hero up was going to be Sacra, and she's based on ancient Aztec culture, and she's kind of a bird woman, and she struggles with loneliness, and I wanted to tap into that.
Yeah, that's serious.
Exactly.
That's really serious.
Exactly. And or for kids I would frame it more as the topic of friendship, but for adults they'd see the topic of loneliness. And so the next character up was a kind of like a lion-based creature who's based on ancient Chinese culture. And he struggles with anger and like self-control and things like that.
Yeah, there's a lot of that today.
Exactly, a lot of that. And then the next character up, her name is and she's based on the heart chakra, which is dealing with love, giving and receiving love. But with that particular book, I wanted to tap into the topic of disability because she's blind. And she actually perceives her world through love. She feels everything. She's an empath.
Nice.
And then the next character up is him, and he's based on ancient Greek culture, and specifically Hermes. And with that one, I wanted to talk about boundaries and teaching kids the power of the word no. Because I struggle with
tantrums,
that.
Kids, you say no, and they're throwing themselves on the floor. They're yelling at their parents. It's like, oh my God.
Exactly. So the power of the word no, but also setting personal boundaries and being authentic. And then the next character up is Viz, and she's based on, she's kind of like an alien, because the higher up I wanted it to be less realism based and more abstract and more spiritual. So she's more of an alien, but she struggles with amnesia because she's or just forgetfulness, and that's kind of what she's dealing with, and wisdom. So it kind of deals with a different one.
Real top, a wide base of what is going on in people. And I know I have some of those same issues as well. But we all do, right? We all do. And it's great that you're talking about it in a book like this.
Yes, thank you.
This is wonderful.
Thank you. And I figured reaching kids is always a good way to go. But then I realized that with the medium of art and illustration, it also reaches adults because they can see past the layers and they're like, oh wow, this applies to me too. And that's the beauty of really good art, I think, is that it's layered, where you kind of grow into something and you realize that there's so much depth to what's going on.
And it's a good way for parents to bond and teach at the same time. So you're bonding with your child as you're both reading this, and you're both are getting things out of it. Because adults, this is going to help them as well as they're teaching their kids. Right? They're like, oh, I need to work on this myself. And so it's a great way and a great conversation for parents to do with their children as well.
Exactly. Wow. I figured it'd be a good conversation piece.
Yes. So have you started working on those books already?
Yes, I have.
Okay.
So I'm working on the manuscripts for them. And luckily, I won a scholarship to to,
my
to a writing program that I found online.
Nice.
And it was wonderful. And it was a 6-week program. And now, as a result of that, I have like a professional critique group. So I reach out to them with everything that I'm thinking, and they're wonderful.
Nice.
Wonderful.
Nice. See, online has some good things.
Exactly.
Right? I mean, you just have to search. You can search and find anything online.
Honestly.
And that's beautiful.
Honestly, I stumbled upon it by chance. The professor of the whole course, she's Mira Reisberg, and she's an award-winning children's book writer and illustrator.
Wow.
And she runs it and personally interacts with you, and you can call her. It's great.
Wow. That's beautiful.
It's really wonderful.
So I know your parents are so proud of you and your aunts and everybody. Wow. That's amazing.
Thank you.
That's
Thank
amazing.
you. And no, it's really my way to give back to the community in the way that I know how.
Yeah.
Because I think, especially nowadays where everything seems overwhelming and huge,
it's very overwhelming today.
It is.
I just got off the phone with my girlfriend before I got here. I'm 54 years old. I'll be 55 this year.
54?
So, she made this comment to me that, Sharon, life is supposed to get easier as you get older, but oh my God, I feel so overwhelmed. I'm like, girl, so do I.
Right.
I'm thinking you're ready for retirement in a couple of years, but it's just so much going on in the world today, and it's like, oh my goodness.
Exactly.
So, when someone like you brings something like this, it puts everything in perspective that, we have to learn to manage all of these things within us, like the different books that you're going to be writing about. And so this is really, really wonderful. It's going to make an impact in making the world a better place.
Thank you.
I thank you for this beautiful book, and
Thank
just
you so
as a
much.
person that's tackling this. It's really wonderful.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
So where are some of the places that you are going, maybe having book signings and things like that so far?
Sure. So I just did an event at the Boys and Girls Club of Mercer County, which was awesome. Thanks to Dan Bauer.
Nice, yes.
So that was a wonderful opportunity. But then I'm also moving into speaking at schools.
Perfect.
So, my old elementary school, they didn't know that I went there, and they emailed me and said, hey, can you come and speak to the kids? And they were like, yeah, and it was wonderful. So I'm moving into schools, and I'm trying to find bookstores and kind of places that will be receptive to something like this. In culture centers, museums, I'm trying to move into that because it has the cultural, but then it also has the historical. So
it does.
I figure I can kind of maneuver and finagle my way in.
Oh yeah, definitely. Well, I'll tell you, I know a lot of entrepreneurs that have businesses, and if they have any interest to have your book in their shops or whatever, that would be great. Plus, I know other people too. So however I can hook you up with people to come and speak, because I think it's important for you to speak.
Thank you.
Not just for the kids, also for adults. Maybe some, men groups, seriously, sororities and things like that.
For sure.
They can bring you in too, because I do like life skill programs and things like that. So I think you can probably talk to some of the sororities about doing this, because they have mentors. They mentor a lot of kids.
I would love that.
So I think that would be wonderful, wonderful place for you to go as well.
That really would be.
Yeah.
I'm trying to find everywhere that I can go to speak on this and really tackle it. And I think it's particularly important to have somebody who's male-bodied talking about it, because there's not a lot of men tackling this topic, you know. It's always, I find, mainly women wanting men to understand and move into it, and less so men taking the initiative and saying, let's talk about it.
Yes, exactly.
So.
Well, here you are, the hero that's coming to do that for the men. So, all the women will be like, yes, finally, So this is really wonderful. And again, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Of course,
the wisdom that you have in this book and the books to come. Definitely come back for every book. Come back on my show every book that you're going to do, because this is really amazing.
Thank you.
Love the storyline and everything that you're doing. So
thank you so much. I definitely will be back.
And just tell us, where we can find your books.
Sure.
You can just look at the audience and let them know.
Sure. So you can find my work on my website, www.ramalik, and that's RAM as in Mary, ALIK, illustrations.com. And then I also have several social media sites, and they are all the same kind of tagline. And you can also find that on my website as well.
Wonderful. Well, again, thank you so much.
Thank
it was
you.
a pleasure. Until
Likewise.
next time, bye-bye.